Hello, everybody.
Hey.
I just have to say that everybody just came off of listening to that little intro song that our producer made for us. What an icon, what a talent.
Oh my God. It truly was not me. It came with the program, but who
Setting
doesn't
the
like to get a little
tone.
spooky? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Setting the vibe. We appreciate it.
Ugh, I know. I fucking love Halloween.
This is when I thrive, truly. And
Yeah,
I feel like no other friend in my life likes Halloween like you do. So this is just yet again another reason why we are meant to be together.
I know. Ugh, everyone cannot be defeated.
No. Well, welcome to our Halloween episode. This is something that Abby and I have been planning since we actually came up with the idea of the podcast, I think, when we were first doing our brainstorm. Halloween was like right up there. Spooks, horrors, and mysteries. We have some
Ooh.
really funny things to look back on throughout the years of the reality TV that we've seen. But Abby, you have to start off by addressing your eye and your background before anything else.
What do you mean? This is how I look every day. I woke up like
Yeah,
this.
you're
This
spiritually
is just,
awakened.
I have two blue eyes and one brown eye.
Hmm.
No, for the listeners who are like, what the fuck is she talking about? We are like sort of, I don't know, doing like a low-key Halloween dress up,
Yes,
as we
clearly.
do. No. And so I'm doing like a little shout out to Heather Dubrow, who's had plenty of shout outs on this podcast so
Yeah, no
far, but
kidding.
she's deserving. Yeah, so she did this makeup with a third eye, and I thought I would just replicate it because then I can just continue to wear all black and just pop that baby on and call it a day. So that's what I've done here.
It looks so good. You're so talented.
It's because you can't see it up close. I won't go any closer to the camera, but thank you.
I also love that your head is right where Shannon Bedour lays.
Yes, yes. So, again, for my background in this episode, I have chosen to commemorate, the time that Shannon and David, I believe, I don't know,
Hmm.
he's so forgettable, but
Yeah.
they were like on the brink of divorce, and went to this therapeutic retreat. And one of the exercises was using a gravestone to pretend that the other partner is dead, and how you would want to talk to them if they were dead, and how you would regret what happened while they were still alive. And so it kind of looks like David is leaning over me, like he's mourning my death, which is like fair enough.
Yeah.
But if I just move over, then you can see Shannon at peace, laid to rest. And
Finally. Finally
yeah,
at peace.
it if only it had actually ended there for them.
Yeah, no kidding.
But yeah, that's my
It
story.
is such a good image. I totally forgot about that. And I mean, clearly it worked, right? Like they think they stayed together for maybe a few more months after this.
Mm-hmm.
They did that
Yeah.
stupid vow renewal, I think, at the end of that season, and then by the reunion they were done.
I think you're right. Yeah, Moss is like, I agree.
I agree.
What about
Just
your background?
okay, yeah. So I am with the witches of WeHo, our queens, drinking their wine, being baddies. Katie Maloney, of course, serving with the dark lip. We love. Um, yeah, they are just such a vibe in this picture. I love this. My intention was to be Sheena Shea at the season 10 VPR reunion when she's hanging out in the trailer with her white claw, looking disgusted, watching Rachel spew her bullshit. So unfortunately I couldn't quite emulate that. I couldn't have a good as gold dress, but I am here in spirit with my ladies. And I have my white claw, so the spirit of Sheena Shea is within me.
Truly. Yeah, it truly is. All you need is the white claw and you've got it covered.
Yeah, and I just am keeping her in mind throughout this time.
Yeah.
Um Yeah, so before we get into anything else, I wanted to acknowledge Kyle Richards once again on
Mm-hmm.
this show for being one of the queens of Halloween throughout the series of just Real Housewives in general, for being, an OG actress as she is, reminding us always that these bitches could never, by just constantly, being her best self in the Halloween series with Jamie Lee Curtis, which anytime I see Jamie Lee Curtis now, I can't think of her any differently other than Dorit just saying how chic her shit
I
is.
know. The fucking
But yeah,
chimes.
we are so lucky to have a Halloween baddie, a part of the reality show world.
Ugh, I love it so much. Yeah, she is amazing. There is nothing that Kyle cannot do and
Yep.
cannot do well.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
exactly.
we love
Yeah.
our queen.
Also loved her bang moment when they were doing that new version of the movie. I know that she didn't love it, but I love that look on her and I wish she would bring it back.
Yeah, I completely agree. I loved it. There was this one photo of her with like black leather pants, and she was wearing like it was like all black with the texture leather and I don't know what else, but
I think I know what
layered
you
and
mean.
the bangs, like, oh, it just looked so good. I'm like,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, her style has really evolved over time. I love seeing just a woman embrace her brunette hair. I feel like a lot of housewives or people I see on reality TV just kind of end up going blonde at some point, like
Yeah.
little by little, but she's always stayed dark. I mean, I think she has had like a little bit there, but I just love the dark, dark hair, dark eyebrows, dark bang, dark clothes.
Yeah, we just love darkness,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
in general.
exactly.
Yeah. Oh man. Yes, so Halloween is definitely a time that we love to celebrate. It's a time that we look forward to every year and we
Totally.
drag it out as long as possible.
Definitely.
And something that really connects us as friends, just our
Yeah.
love for all things dark and spooky.
If you all could like mentally teleport to last October, it was just Abby and I and our spouses just sitting in my house dressed up. Like we had hung out all day, and I think even the day before that, like in normal clothing, and then we separated for an hour and then just met up again in my living room, just redressed. Nobody else came over. It was just us sitting down watching some animatronic horror movie with Nicolas Cage in the background on silent.
Oh
And
my
yeah,
God,
it
yes.
was just a vibe.
Was that Willy's Wonderland? It
Yeah.
was like the warehouse.
Yeah, yeah.
Shout out to Willy's Wonderland. That is worth a watch. I
Yeah,
promise.
Nicolas Cage is tuned in and he appreciates it.
Oh man, what a time.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
that was great.
hilarious.
We've had some good Halloweens.
Yeah, we have. I just love how you really like to go in, and you were Violet Beauregard last year and I fucking love that costume so much. It's one I wanted to do forever and you really just killed it.
Oh my gosh.
Love it.
Yeah, that was so fun. That was a
That
great
was so
time.
fun. Okay, so shall we dive into some mysteries?
Yes, I'm ready to get into it.
Okay.
And I will say, like, I think some of the mysteries, there have been a lot of theories. Some have been like a little bit solved, but I think are
Mm,
still worth a bit of a shout out.
100%. We don't really know the full truth, I don't think, of any of these, so.
How could we? Oh man.
Okay, I mean, the biggest one that has kind of been in the headlines lately is, I mean, obviously Kyle Richards and Maurizio. There's a lot going on with them, not only, speculating a separation for the last several months, but apparently them potentially lying about it too. That's been a new development over the last week or so. With that aside, because again, we truly don't know. That
Mhm.
psychic, what was her name? I can't remember her name. I feel like it's Allison
Um,
or something.
yeah, it was Alison Dubois.
Oh my
Dubois,
God. Yeah, the
I
psychic.
believe.
Yeah, that came to a dinner party on the Beverly Hills Real Housewives and basically predicted that they were going to split up and that he was never going to emotionally fulfill her while smoking a vape. Or vaping,
Yeah.
I have to say, which is iconic.
Oh man. I mean, I'm kind of like, I know everyone's like, oh, she predicted it. She saw it coming. And I'm like, did she? Because, like,
No.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to throw this out there in heteronormative relationships. Can we ever really be fulfilled? Like, I'm just going to throw that out there for contemplation. Doesn't mean that
Yeah.
gonna separate. She never said they're gonna separate. All she said was, he will never emotionally fulfill you.
True. No,
And
that's a
I'm
really good
like,
point.
who really can do that for a Capricorn queen? I
Oh
wonder.
my God. I just got goosebumps. That is so true.
That is my argument that I'm bringing to this whole scenario.
Yeah, no, that is a really good point. I mean, I feel like this kind of is going to tie into our conversation in a few weeks, wink, wink, about like the ethics of therapy and Real Housewives, but also like psychics. And I was thinking about like the wellness community and how that trend has really been an upcoming theme in Real Housewives, especially. And so I always find it interesting how a lot of these women will have psychics or like healers of some sort, like in these dinner parties for one-offs, and it's just like not really taken either seriously or respectfully at all. So I don't see this as being like an authentic thing. It's obviously just for the cameras. And this was also early days for Beverly Hills where they were just doing the most just to get reactions. So
Yeah.
I'm very like aware that that's not real. However, I can only imagine how this woman was feeling when that news broke. Not because she predicted it and that she was right, but because like she probably was just seen as being like so weird for so long for saying that on the show. And people are like, oh my God, that bitch who was like vaping at the dinner table with like all these icons kind of turned out to be not totally wrong. So she must have felt kind of vindicated. It's almost like when Kristen was starting to feel a bit vindicated with things. It's like, I don't agree with you as a person, but I'm kind of here for like you being right all along.
Right. I think for me, like she is one of the characters, and I think this was literally season one. Like it was
Yeah.
at least very early on.
Yeah.
Um she was someone who I felt to be very like smug,
Mm-hmm.
very condescending,
Oh, yeah.
not in like a clever kind of interesting way. If that's possible, which I would argue it is. Um, I just found it to be very like annoying. She had her little minions. She was there like in cahoots with Camille, who was
Yeah.
not, you know, vibing with Kyle at the time. And I just felt like looking back, it's hard for me because I'm also in the wellness sector
Yeah.
and really looking at like the ethics of
Mm-hmm.
that, how exploitative psychics can really be.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, just the whole thing was like icky to me.
Icky, yeah.
So
I
I'm
was
kind
just
of
gonna
like,
say icky too. Also, I love that you said in cahoots. That's like one of my favorites.
ah, they
Yeah.
totally were in cahoots.
I just also think that this would be a really funny Halloween costume as well, just with the huge martini glass and the vape. It's just it really is a sign of the times.
That's
Yeah.
true.
It was a interesting thing. Definitely don't buy that she's a psychic. No.
Yeah.
It's not happening for me.
It just felt like way too personal and vindictive. Like
Yeah.
she was like getting something out of it,
Yeah.
and she wasn't ethical. She wasn't like
No.
transparent or empathetic. It was like, no, get out of here.
Yeah, I think our standards about that are way different than other people's. So
Especially on Real Housewives. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Very true.
Now
Yeah.
this next one is actually kind of a doozy for me because I don't know how I feel about it. Giselle's missing tequila bottle. Was it Ultimate Girls Trip, right? That's
Yes.
yeah, when they were in oh, where
Were
were
they in
they?
Thailand or
Yes, yes, they
okay.
were in Thailand. Yeah. Beautiful also. Like I actually really liked that season because I hadn't watched Real Housewives of Miami yet. So I got to know Marisol and Alexis and
Yeah.
I really like and that's what made me want to watch it, which I think is obviously the point. But yeah, I really liked all of their dynamics. I love that Candace and Giselle were there together. It obviously caused for a lot of drama. But it was a really great season and I really enjoyed it, just as a side note. But damn, Giselle would not give it up with this damn tequila bottle.
I know.
What do you
I
think?
do find her very comical, very
Oh yeah.
charming. You know, when she gets off on her little like, I'm gonna play detective now. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I do like I find that entertaining, but I definitely agree that it kind of hit a limit where everyone was like, okay,
Like
like
enough. Yeah.
we got it. Like it's not that expensive, girl. Like
Yeah, I
it's not
know.
one of a kind.
I know. I think Candace was like, I'll buy you one. Like, I'll send you money for it right now. And I didn't even take it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I think just in the context of everything that was happening in
Mhm.
their friendship at the time, obviously played a big part into it. I
For
know
sure.
Pepsi, like
Oh
the
my gosh.
concierge, he was
So
like,
sweet. We love
yeah,
Pepsi.
everyone loved Pepsi. And like Pepsi was a little cheeky, like
Oh
kind of
yeah.
stirring the pot with that a little bit, right?
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so it was entertaining. Um, it was just how much she was accusing Candace of being the one. She was like so set on it and just
Mhm.
went so out of her way to go and like trap her. Um,
Yeah,
just got
so
old.
true. Yeah, I definitely don't think Candace had anything to do with it. Obviously, I think it just probably got drank and drank. And that's it. That was the end of it. Like the bottle was just then discarded of, and that's it. I don't know. Like,
So, yeah, well, that's kind of what happened. Like, so I don't know if you remember, but at the very end of the episode, and I think that I don't know if you had to like watch the credits first
oh
or
yeah,
what.
I didn't see that anything else about it.
No, basically there was like, and I honestly haven't watched it too recently, so I'm probably gonna butcher this, but um there was footage of Heather and Whitney in their confessionals. And
Oh my
basically, like
God.
they took the bottle that night. There was footage shown of Heather, Whitney, Pepsi, I think, and Leah.
I knew
And they
it.
were all, yeah, they were all like taking shots. And then they showed, I think they showed the bottle actually like in the outdoor shower. So Heather and
Oh,
Whitney took it and had it in the outdoor shower and they just kept like going over there to take shots out of it.
I'm fucking dead. That's actually really funny.
Like I'm
That's so
not
funny.
surprised that it was Heather and Whitney.
No, actually, I was gonna say, but I didn't want to, but I was gonna say I can see Heather doing that
Mhm.
out of all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a good time girl.
Also, I feel like when you were saying too of like Giselle kind of doing little like the bit about like the evidence and like the process, like I feel like that's also why you like Shannon Bedour too. Like they just kind of like go into like little themes and little like being cheeky and being funny. Like I do like that
Yeah.
too. It's fun.
Yeah, it's when like someone fully commits.
Yeah, yeah,
Because it's weird. I'm not that much of like a theme person, but I
yeah,
think maybe it's more about commitment that
yeah.
I
No, that's so true.
appreciate. Wow, deep.
I mean, you are a Capricorn, like we've established.
Oh man.
That commitment, though.
So true. So yeah, that was pretty funny though to hear all the theories and people were like posting on Instagram at the bar. They're like, Giselle, we found your bottle. Like,
Yeah, it's so funny. I mean, like, I get it. I feel like I'd be the same way, especially if you don't drink anything else. It's the only thing you drink. You bring it. I've also feel like I've been a lot more aware of this because a friend of mine has celiac, and so she's very like she can only eat certain things. So I do understand the feeling of like this is all I can have. Not that it's that serious for Giselle, but you know what I mean. So to have
yeah,
like your one thing be taken, like I don't think it's being a diva. I don't think it's being extra. Like I totally get it, but like
yeah,
at some point we have to accept that it's gone.
yeah. I know. It's true. I think it was funny and I also understand why she was upset. So,
Yeah, for sure. So funny. I'm
oh
dead that it
man.
was Heather after all and Whitney. I'm not surprised. Whatever brings those two together, whatever.
I know, honestly. Yeah, so another pretty big mystery
Yeah, this one's
is
a doozy.
Heather's black eye.
I mean, just and we'll post a picture on Instagram. I think everybody's seen it, but like just for reference, in case you haven't for a while, holy fuck.
It was bad.
It's like it's swollen shut. That's not just like a little bruising around the eye. Like I fell and like no, that's a really serious injury that she had. And I think in the moment when I was watching it, I was like totally taken aback by how severe it was and also
Yeah.
the scratches on her arm. But and I understand that she was asking the cast to like kind of move on, like not talk about it. I seriously couldn't have. If I were in that position, I could not just go-karting or like wherever the fuck they did and just like pretend that no, like I would just refuse personally. I don't
Yeah,
know.
100%. I would be like, I imagine if that happened to you and you'd
Yeah.
be trying to talk normal and I'd be like, sorry, what? Like,
No, you
Anna,
would
I
lock me in
can't.
a room and be like, you're not leaving until you tell me what the fuck happened.
Exactly.
Like,
I would turn into Giselle on the
yeah, yeah,
investigation and
yeah.
yeah, turn up. Oh man. There were so many theories around this. There
Oh
was
my
so
God,
much
I know.
buzz and like
Lies.
Heather's behavior was very odd when
Very,
like
very odd.
and I also take that with a grain of salt, not necessarily a lot of like suspicion, but I do think that Heather is the kind of person to feel a little bit awkward, feel a little bit uncomfortable, and want to like she overthinks it, and then she's
Yeah.
trying to be funny, and then she's like, no, I should be serious. And I feel like something weird just happened for her in her mind about how to
Yeah.
handle that.
Honestly, I relate to that so much though. Like I feel like sometimes I'm put in situations where I'm like, okay, I need to react to this and I really don't know what road to take. So I end up just being like, yeah, unless she were to literally be like, I'm locking myself in the room for the day to process how to handle this, like I feel like I would do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But it was really confusing. And I think especially because she was also kind of like dropping hints about it, especially getting ready for the dinner that night. She was like, just bring up my eye and they'll shut them all up. Like, 'cause they all know what happened. I was like, girl, you got to do one or the other. Like, you either got to say, like, give me time to like think about this. 'Cause I mean, what her story ended up being was that she had a lot of shame about being so drunk that she fell and hit her eye, which I call bullshit on. But yeah, that you just have to be like, okay, I need to process. If that, to me, if that were the case, and like seeing her on the show, I would almost predict that she would be like, I really don't want to talk about this right now, and I just need some time to process it. She wouldn't be saying shit like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? About like stirring the pot and kind of like putting a potential out there that somebody did that to her. Like people are obviously gonna like take that seriously, especially coming from her. She's a really honest person, I think. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah, I definitely think there is some kind of lie for
Oh
sure
yeah.
because she just, like you said, sucks at lying. Her loyalty is like so
Yeah.
strong and pure,
Yeah.
and I feel like she would be torn in this really difficult spot. So that kind of leans me towards the theory that it was a fight with Jen or that Jen was physical with her.
Yeah. I
I mean, we
agree.
have seen Jen be physical and be violent towards others. So, we know that it can happen, especially with drinking and kind of acting explosively in the moment. I wouldn't say that it's not a possibility.
Yeah.
Um,
It's just wild to even think about that happen. Like, because when I would hear that theory, I'm like, that makes sense because what you're saying, like, yeah, history and pattern. But to like actually visualize a scenario where like that would happen, whether by accident or not, whether like Jen just pushed her and then she hit
yeah,
her, you know what I mean? Like, or just threw something at her. Like we've seen that girl throw a heavy
yeah,
ass glass drink and it's like gone pretty far. So
yeah,
I mean, it's so shitty to think about conflict in on these shows that are like entertaining to some degree to watch to turn to that level, and it's really jarring just how wild that injury actually is. It's sad.
yeah. Like I know, so there was an interview, I think it was Watch What Happens Live. Andy and Lala were talking about it,
Yeah.
and they were kind of saying like they both think that it was Jen Shaw.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know, like I could definitely see Jen getting upset as we've seen before,
Yeah.
but I could also see like, if they were just messing around or being silly or something happened or
Yeah.
maybe something just went too far and based on where everything was at with her case, it was like, no, like there can be no possibility of this being
Yeah.
linked to me. Like I have to
Yeah.
be protected around this.
Totally.
I could see that,
Yeah. No, it
but
makes a lot of sense to me why she like if I were her friend and like you said that loyalty to Jen, like I would probably do the same thing. So I get it.
yeah, it's just hard to imagine like the producers. So that's another piece of this mystery is like, um, where's the footage? Because
Mhm.
Heather was claiming that she was being recorded the whole time, but Bravo and Andy said that they did a full investigation and there's no footage. So, like, which is it, guys?
Yeah, I feel like, and we'll kind of get to this in a bit, where it's interesting when the worlds kind of collide between what we see and then production getting involved and like kind of evidence based. Like we see this with Michael Darby, which, like I said, we'll get into. But it's always interesting when that happens because to me, that's what makes things escalate and like actually I take them very seriously because it is a workplace at the end of the day, right? Like it
Yeah,
becomes an HR thing. It becomes because we see all this conflict, whereas in a normal workplace that would be like stop it. So there has to be some sort of like threshold of like allowing conflict to just be like in the sort of normal area, and then once it exceeds that to physical or like sexual level of assault, then it's like that's when they really have to drop the cameras and potentially become a legal problem. So I don't,
yeah,
it's always so tricky to as an audience because we want answers, but I don't know how far they can go, right?
I know. It's so true. Like, it's interesting, because I remember the way that the camera was for that episode. It was like up on the wall, like there were
Yeah.
no staff. And so
Yeah.
Heather was like, I didn't know they were filming because there were no staff.
Mm,
Because we've seen production step in like every time, like multiple times
yeah,
if things escalate. So, I think that they would have had they been there if that was happening.
for sure.
So it's just very odd.
Yeah, very odd.
I know like one of the other theories was that there was like a procedure she was trying to do, maybe on herself, or maybe it was
Mm.
like had been covered up previously, something from Beauty Lab, and she had to cover it up to like not tarnish her
Oh, that's
name.
an interesting theory.
But the
I
thing
don't
is,
know.
like,
She
she
looked
was
normal
so
the night before.
swollen.
Yeah,
I know she
no.
was so swollen. Like, there's no way.
No.
So I'm like, okay, maybe she tried to do like a little bit of Botox while she was drunk and it like went wrong and had like a reaction. Like, I don't know.
Could you
I
imagine packing Botox? Like being at that level where you're like, let me just pack a couple syringes really quick.
I truly could not. I could
No,
not
that's it's
imagine.
pretty iconic.
I know.
But I also have to say too, because you mentioned Andy's comment, that's pretty big of him to say so. Because I feel like I would say over the last like few years, he's getting a little bit more vocal about how he feels about things, and his sass is starting to come out a bit more, which I like seeing that. Don't get me wrong. But for him to kind of take a stance on drama or like,
Yeah.
because even though it's not that, it's like literally just a statement or agreeing with Lala, that's saying something for
Yeah.
sure. That's something that's very
Definitely.
serious.
Well, especially the way that like things left off between him and Jen. It just, yeah, seems pretty personal,
For
but
sure.
yeah. And I think like just remembering the scratches on her arms, like
Yeah,
that
that
was something that we can't really look past. Like even
no.
in the photo that we're gonna post, like you can see them on her arms.
Yeah, literally I'm looking at them right now.
Yeah.
It to me in my mind as we're talking about this, and again, like V alleged,
Yeah.
but I can totally just see somebody potentially by the name of Jen Shaw throwing a drink. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
it's a straight up punch in the eye, but something was somehow thrown to hurt Heather. And then Heather is upset and like, get away from me. And there's like some sort of like, no, 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 oh my God, like, getting her kind of, because I just feel like that all seemed like the type of injury I'm looking at is giving caught in the moment because if you're on a trip and there's cameras and you're being filmed, nobody's going to do like a very visual and obvious injury if they're trying to hurt them and it's calculated and planned. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fully
Okay,
agree.
lawyer.
I conclude your, yeah, you can conclude your investigation because case closed. No,
Hopefully
but
we'll find out one day. I don't know.
well, you know how we were saying in one of our earlier episodes that Heather was hinting at some closure. There's going to be an old story resurfacing. We're going to
Right?
get some closure on it. I do wonder if that's going to be it because I can't remember what it was. I saw Meredith was talking about the black eye. She had like brought it up on a recent interview
Oh my
and
God.
said like, stay tuned, we might find out more about it. So I'm kind of wondering if that story is going to resurface and maybe we'll learn the real truth of what happened.
I kind of hope so, honestly. Okay, so to be continued. If I'm right, I will replay that little portion and I will stand by it.
Yes, 100%. Oh man.
God. So the next one on the list is honestly gives me nightmares. I think of it. I don't know if you've seen that trend online of like the Roman Empire. Have you seen
Yes.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is my Roman Empire. When I think of Vicky
Oh,
and Brooks, their dynamic is incredibly complicated and toxic and entertaining to some degree, but just like deeply unsettling above all else. This man is giving Sandoval to me, like in terms of the nightmares it gives me.
yes.
It's a
Oh,
lot.
yeah.
So, as we know, for people who've watched the show, and if they don't, again, I don't know why you're watching this, you know it's going to be spoilers. But Vicky, left, I think it was her second marriage at that point, and was dating, and just like she's very vocal about really needing to be loved and really needing
Her
validation.
cup
So,
filled.
yeah, she needs her love cup filled, her love tank full.
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
Um, and so she meets this, southern guy who is saying all the right things. Like, unfortunately, her vulnerability, I think, led her to be incredibly vulnerable to somebody like Brooks and just like, you know, definitely being manipulated and being taken advantage of financially. And I know
Yeah.
that's a whole other like subsector of people who are being manipulated and emotionally abused and taken advantage of. And yeah. So I don't even know how they met or how they got in contact, but he was just a compulsive liar and did everything to manipulate her and to get into her world, and just really take advantage of her. Tamara saw it from the beginning. I think a lot of women who were on the show noticed it from the beginning. His behavior was really odd and just a lot too soon, but she really liked that about him.
Hmm.
And subsequently like led to lying about cancer, and it was really awful to see online. I have to give it up to Shannon Bedour. She was one that came in with some receipts, honey, to
She
prove
did.
like CAT scans. She's like, I've gotten this CAT scan and it does not look like this. And the spelling mistakes in the fake CAT scans he wrote was so stupid. um
Uh,
he was just like such a train wreck, and that was actually the first season I watched of Orange County, because I
oh
think I've said this
wow.
before and I've said it again. I don't like watching series from season one. I always start in the middle just because I need to like see it when it's kind of blossomed a bit, and then I'll go back to season one if I need to. But that's where I started, and it was
What
a
a
wild,
time to
yeah,
start.
yeah, it was wild. um
Wow.
so he was a lot, but I mean, what an eerie man.
Yeah, he was creepy. Like I can see like he's very charming. He knows what to say. He knows all the right things to
Yeah.
do. He has an answer for everything. And you can see how someone falls for a guy like him.
Yep.
And she's always got her like checklist of these are the things I'm looking for, and he fit that. And he
Yep.
also knew how to meld himself into what she was looking for as
Mhm.
a manipulator and predator does. But I also think it's really interesting looking at like those spelling mistakes and all the
Yeah.
things that he was so lax, which to me just shows us how comfortable he was doing that.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
he was just like very nonchalant about it. He was unbothered. Like he does this all the time. He's messy
Yeah.
because he's experienced, right? And
Yeah.
so I fucking loved Shannon coming out with the receipts. That was like the best use of her medical anxiety ever.
So true. And like I think I was at a point where she needed to see something like was obviously like plain in plain sight wrong, not just like an opinion or like fuck the haters. Like, no, this man was like you have to see that this is like a not correct medical document.
Yeah, literally not correct, like
Mhm.
fabricated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
So I know that there was a lot of the drama that happened in that season was centered around people thinking she was in on it. And everyone just like
Oh
very quickly
yeah.
turned on her.
What a
They're
weird
like,
take.
I know. And I think Tamara led a lot of that.
Oh, I'm not
Shocking.
surprised.
I know. But people thought like she's in on it. And they're like, you're covering for him. You're lying. You knew, blah, blah, blah. And Brooks gave this interview after they had broken up,
With
saying
Andy,
like,
right?
I
Because I
don't
know they
know.
did one, but maybe this is something separate. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
Go
no,
for it.
it's okay. I think I kind of think they broke up and he was just like blabbing all over the place. So I'm not 100% sure.
Flop it all over the place. I
Oh
mean, yeah, he
man.
literally lost like his what his plan was to just
Yeah.
live off this woman forever.
Well, I think he claims to this day that he had cancer or that he was under the impression that he had cancer. Although I think it was production or like multiple people had called the hospital that was supposedly treating him and they were like, and I don't know how they could like corroborate this with
Yeah.
medical privacy laws, but like
I don't
they
know. There's
said
some
they'd never
rats out
heard of
there.
him. I know, yeah. I guess they just knew it was really important.
Yeah.
But he claims that he had cancer and that he did the treatments, even though the reports are very laughable. And the hospitals claimed that they don't know him, never had him as a patient. It's made up. Um, and he claimed that Vicky did not know anything and that he hid a lot of it from her. And that's also what she claimed. What do you think?
Like hid the cancer from her?
Yeah, he said he was like sneaking off. He was going to appointments without telling her. He was covering it up.
No.
And she was like getting all clingy and worried about it and like, why are you lying to me?
No, I don't believe that at all.
No. So you think she knew?
I think that she genuinely believed him. And I think that she was so deeply manipulated by him that she fully bought this and was defending him. I think she was also to a point with herself where she was like, I can't possibly acknowledge that this is even potentially a lie. If she, I think she probably fought a lot of her own intuition because she's a smart woman. Like I will give it to her. Like she's really independent. I feel like she is really smart. I do appreciate how like she values independence, especially financially from men. But it's, put herself in a very vulnerable position. I think that they must have come to some sort of an agreement when their relationship was coming to a close on how it was going to be handled in the media that I don't know, maybe I just don't believe her necessarily off the front of it things. Like I do think that they probably said, okay, well, I'll pay you this if as long as you just say that I didn't know anything so that I don't look like I fully knew that you were lying about cancer and then I can't keep my job on the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I think that's where the majority of people have landed.
What do you
Um,
think?
yeah, I think pretty much the same thing. I do kind of think that she didn't know, um, but also that she ignored things because like what?
Your eye
If I tap into my third, if I just look deep within my third eye, then I can really
just not
channel.
blinking.
She don't need to blink.
It's a very serious topic, but like this eye.
If I think really hard about what was really going on.
You're even really good.
Oh
Yeah, okay,
man.
sorry. Sorry.
She's
I
part of
just I
me
can't.
now. No, it's okay. We
Oh
we are
God, it's
one.
so funny.
Oh man, I should keep this for
Oh
a
shit,
while.
look at my eyeliner. That's scary.
No, you're good. You're
Okay,
killing it.
please
Um
continue.
No, it's all good. I do think that she like ignored signs and
Yeah.
I think she's a woman who is like willing to look past things for the
Yeah,
sake of like her image, her outer image,
for
no,
sure.
not having the right. We know this about Vicky. Um and but ultimately her image and being able to outwardly stick to her morals is like
Yeah.
super important to her. So I totally think that she would have paid him, even if she genuinely didn't know he was lying about the cancer. I believe that she would have paid him still to be like, leave no traces here.
Yeah, yeah, we're done. Because that's what he wanted at the end of the day. Like I fully believe he would have cashed a check and fucking lived his life. You know what I mean? I think
Absolutely.
though, to some degree, and maybe this is just me being naive because I do think that there are people who are capable of like really deeply lying about some serious fucking shit, but that he would be like, I did have like suspected cancer at one point. So I'm not fully lying. You know what I mean? Like it's just an elaboration. But I do think that for herself and her own dignity, I think she would be like, it's not a complete lie. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. The way we justify things to ourselves.
Yeah, the ways in which, and I could, yeah, I just see this in her so strongly. And I think it's even continued like in that relationship she ended up being with, she got engaged to this guy and they're no longer together. But she had said, like, in the most recent season of Orange County, she's like, yeah, we didn't have sex for like fucking forever. And so I'm like, you made it seem like you were like, you know what I mean? She just says and does things for appearances.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Until things are like for certain and she's ready to act on ending it or leaving, like nothing's going to come out until the day after.
I'm just thinking now, like, and everybody's beautiful in their own way, so please. But when she was like, uh, the producer's like, "Are you having good sex?" She's like, "Yeah, have you seen him?" It's like a cut to this man that she's dating, and it's
They totally mocked that whole thing up too. They were so
the editors are so
catty about it. They're
shady.
so shady. They're so shady. Oh my God.
It was really funny. Oh my god, the
She
editors are
deserves to
just
have
like,
her love tank filled.
yeah, and like I love that they're so like against Vicky, and I think that's like under direction of Andy too. She's he's probably like roast her in editing.
Oh God.
So funny.
Yes. Oh, Vicky, one of a kind.
Really.
So one of the other mysteries I really wanted to just even touch on, it fucking sends me when I think about it. Is are you just looking at the photo? Oh, so the photo is of taking us to Potomac.
We're traveling.
We're traveling in time through the magic of the third eye, and we're so we're remembering Robin and Giselle, and who else was there? Was Candace there? I don't even remember.
No, I think it was just, oh, I think Ashley Darby.
Oh yes, yeah, because they were eating the pizza.
Yeah.
So they were trying to call Karen out on lying about living in her house. And so they went and
Say it
delivered
out
a
loud.
pizza.
Say it out loud. Like, how ridiculous. Friends don't do this.
I
Like,
know I'm gonna catch her. She says she's living at home, but I know she's not. Oh God. Can you imagine?
no, like, because actually it's quite brilliant though, I will say. It's a really good plan. That
Yeah.
is a good way to see if somebody's home. However, nobody's answering the goddamn door in the middle of the night. Like,
No.
no, it's not gonna happen. But
Yeah.
fuck, I
Especially if
mean,
you did not order a pizza and then a
yeah.
pizza shows up.
And it's Robin Dixon
Oh
with
man.
a
So
beard.
yeah, literally. So I don't know where she got this like uniform, but she's wearing
I
like the
don't
red
know.
delivery shirt and she's got the fake beard and the cap on and
With like the full smoky eye.
it's just full face. Oh my God, I know. And so they go up and deliver the pizza. They ring the doorbell a bunch of times. They're knocking. All the lights are fucking off. Like nobody's there.
No.
And then they just leave the pizza and they run away. But I love that it was like a partially eaten pizza because they were eating it on the way there.
Yeah, yeah, all of it. It was so funny.
Oh,
Again, just like women committing to this like theme or idea is so fucking funny to me. And I honestly find Giselle and Robin to be really quite a funny dynamic. And whenever they do shit like this, I mean, Karen takes it so seriously, which I get. I think if I were in that boat, I might do the same. I'd be like, really, bitches? But it's so funny, like to watch. They're just hilarious.
they just know what to do to like get her going and just
Yeah,
poke at her. And it is a
yeah,
total like, haha, you and your silly little traditions and
yeah.
like, how dare you?
I do think Karen was living in that house. I don't, I think they were just being haters.
Yeah. Because so what Karen said because they saw her and Karen didn't say anything about it. And they were like, "Hey, Karen, did you get a pizza the other night?" She's like, "Huh?" They're like, "Did you get a pizza? Was a pizza delivered?" She's like, "Well, I
Huh?
don't I don't I don't think so, but a raccoon got some pizza that was on my porch." And she was like playing it off and said that like a raccoon got it. So like, you think she was there the whole time?
I don't know. Yeah, I do. I think they were just being haters about her like not living in Potomac anymore. And I get it. It's funny. I just think she was probably home and there's a very reasonable reason as to how the pizza she wasn't aware of a pizza. Like,
Yeah.
there's producers there at her house every day. She probably has a cleaning service. Like you never know. So
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think like she's a busy woman, so I feel like
she
she's not
steps
the
over that
one.
box.
Yeah, I feel like she's not the one answering that door if a pizza's getting delivered. Like,
Yeah, so
but I
true.
also feel like she's the kind of woman who would have like security cameras at the front gate and like all the, the whole deal. I feel like she would know if someone was coming up her driveway.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see her like actually now you say that, I can see if she were to see them being foolish and dropping off a pizza, she would like cuss them out before they even had a chance to ask her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. I don't know. Maybe she just wasn't there, but she definitely lived there. Like,
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I also just think like regardless, she doesn't care. Like,
no, she doesn't care at all.
yeah,
She's living her best life. So
truly.
let her be.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out because I fucking love that image of Robin
It's
just
really
at
funny.
the front door.
It is really, really funny. I'm having the giggles in this episode because I'm just realizing how like stupid all this stuff just so stupid and funny.
But our lives depend on it.
No, like full-heartedly they do.
Oh man.
Okay. Well, we have Erica Girardi. I always just say she's Erica Jane personally,
Yeah.
but the tweet that we have a picture of, this iconic rant that she goes on to Kyle that there was a snowstorm and in Pasadena and that her son flipped his car 5 times on the way to see her not late husband, her ex-husband.
Not yet.
Um,
Oh man.
and that's something about a burglar and an eye, and I don't fucking know. There's a lot of shit going on. And it was a really funny rant. I love the merch and the memes and the pillowcases of that whole statement. It's really funny.
Yeah.
Um, and so somebody's tweeting that it indeed did snow in Pasadena and does snow in Pasadena because the whole argument is that it doesn't snow there. So she's lying about that there was snow and that her son got into a car accident, which is such a rant. Like the thing about Erica is she's not gonna lie like that. I don't understand that argument personally.
Right.
I do think that she was in a position in her life where she was like exaggerating things potentially to a point because she was feeling so alone. And I think a lot of people were like on her and weren't taking her side. That I can totally see being in a position where you're like, I just need somebody to like give a shit about what I'm going through and not just like be critical and criticizing everything I do, which is so funny because this ended up being like an iconic thing for people who don't even watch Real Housewives. They know of this whole rant that she went on. And
Yeah.
it does make her look does make her look pretty hilarious. But yeah, I mean, what's your stance? Do you think that that all happened or was it a lie?
I'm sure that there's like something of a lie in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that Erica is actually a very good liar. And
Okay.
I respect that about her because I'm
Okay.
like, sometimes a bitch needs to lie. That's my take. I'm like, whatever, if you need to lie, like go for it. Like
Sometimes a bitch needs to lie.
I think sometimes a bitch needs to lie. Like let
Yeah.
her lie. You
Let
know? I don't
her.
Yeah, just let her. I
Yeah.
don't think that all of it is a lie. I don't know. Clearly it has snowed in Pasadena, so
Yeah, it
it's
has in
very
fact.
possible.
We are living in unprecedented times of the weather. Do not ever discount something has happened.
So true.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, I completely agree. I think she was like up against a lot at that time, and I feel like she is someone, at least from what we see on the show, who gets very isolated from the other women, like just for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked a little bit about it in previous episodes, but yeah, I think she just gets outcast a little bit. And a lot gets like attributed or projected onto her. And so I feel like
Girl.
she already knew she had to like defend herself. She was going to have to explain herself. So I feel like she was just like, she was ready.
No, that's so true. Yeah, that's a really good point. Man.
But I don't blame her at all. I
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I love that you're like acknowledging that it could be a lie, but you're still defending her.
absolutely.
Yeah, I know. I love that perspective and I fully agree. I mean, I think for me, the reason why I was saying that she's not one to lie in my eyes because like I think somebody who would lie would not say as much as she has at this point. Like she's very, very vulnerable, and honest, I think to a certain degree. I think she just lied to protect herself to some stand and like this is a whole side conversation that
Oh,
we will
yeah.
definitely have an episode on at some point. But I mean, when you're in a legal situation, you can't talk about everything. And they were like so hard on her about that. And I don't understand. Like, you and I talked about this ad nauseum when this was first coming out,
Yeah.
but like, she can't talk, she can't address, she can't do anything when she's in legal. She kept saying that, and people were like, you just have to be on it. Like, I don't understand why production didn't at some point step in and just say, like, we gotta fucking like stop. Because yeah, it's gonna lead to her like being desperate for somebody to understand where she's coming from and like potentially exaggerate something, which turns into a meme, and then it's like unfortunate.
And then it's unfortunate. Yeah. No, exactly. And I feel like it also created a lot of like resentment and lack of trust between
Mm-hmm.
her and all the other ladies.
Yeah.
And they were wanting her so badly to be like, be one way. And it's just not who she is or not who she was able to be at the time. Like, let it
Yeah.
go. There's things you're not going to know about the situation. You're probably not that special to her that she's going to like spill it all to you. So,
Yeah.
like,
No
get over
kidding.
yourself.
Yeah. No kidding. Yeah. Shit. I think her something happened and I think it did snow. I don't know to what degree. That's all I'm
Yeah.
gonna say.
Yeah, I agree. Who knows? But I
Yeah.
think something happened and I think there was a lot on her plate. And fair enough, Erica. You do you. I'll believe what you tell me.
A bitch needs to lie.
A bitch needs to lie sometimes.
So that concludes
Oh,
our mystery portion, which I loved. That was really
yeah.
funny. Now we're
Yeah.
going on to the horrors, which
The horrors.
the first image is making me giggle. Horrific situation between Vanderpump Rules, Ariana, Worm with a mustache, and Rachel. This picture of the three of them together is not only chilling, but his face in this image. I will just be posting like a close up of it alone. It is really fucking funny. He looks ridiculous in this.
Yeah. Um,
Ew.
I know. Yeah, the ick is so real. Yeah, when I thought about like horrors, that was the one that popped into my head first is like that I think is the most horrific thing that has like taken me aback and just struck me for whatever reason. It was just like so jarring and
Yeah.
disturbing. I think
Yeah.
because we've spent so much time with them as a couple
Yeah.
that it was like, every couple goes through hard times, but it was just so shocking, like the way that it happened,
Mm-hmm.
that it was someone so close to home, close to her.
Yeah.
Oh, it just, yeah, chills.
I think that, and I've said this before and I will say it again. There's something about like that alone, like the betrayal, it's shocking, it's devastating. It's also the way that Rachel and Tom handled it afterwards that really was so unsettling to me. And every
Yeah.
time I think about him just gaslighting her and arguing with her and yelling at her and blaming her and Rachel being part of that, it's like there is just I have no empathy for either of them with this. They handled this. You couldn't have done it worse. Like there
Yeah.
you seriously couldn't have done it worse.
Yep. Yep. And again, just knowing like how long it went on and how, like you said, how it was handled afterwards, it's like people need to remember that this wasn't just one thing that happened. I
No,
don't care if they fucking slept together one time.
no.
One time. I don't care. One, uno. But it was like,
One.
it was multiple choices,
Yeah.
multiple choices over a long period of time. It was just so icky and disgusting and creepy. Um, I've been watching this show lately, this like murder show, because I'm a murder doc
Mm-hmm.
kind of person. And it's like, who the fuck did I marry? And it's all about
Mm.
you marry someone and you're like, they turned out to be a serial killer.
Oh my
Like,
God.
to me, it deserves a spot on that show because it was so disturbing of like,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like, and man, we're really like spilling our beans on topics, but I really feel like this is something that we'll get to around like the way that the audience connected with what happened, and how shocking it is. I think a lot of people can unfortunately relate to that of, being with somebody that you really think all these great things about, and then they just like totally fuck you over in a way that's beyond, comprehension, and then to continue to like blame you for that. It's just like it is
Yeah.
so shocking, and it took all of our attention for like a few months there just because of how horrible it was. And it really was a
Yeah.
dumpster fire. I like in our not our last episode, the episode before that, like how great she's doing now. It's obviously really nice to see that on the other side, but yeah, scary fucking times.
Yeah. The shock and horror lives on.
Yeah, it does. It truly, truly does.
Oh man.
Well, another like pretty scary, like I mean, they're all very scary, but this one is actually like pretty unsettling. That happened to Dorit, which I personally am a big, not it doesn't matter if I'm a fan of hers or not for what happened. It was really scary. But I have been kind of become a fan of Dorit's over the last little while, and she experienced a pretty horrific burglary at her house. And we know that Kyle went through something pretty similar on the show as well. Luckily she wasn't home, I don't think, at the time. But what's the word? Not intrusion.
Break and enter.
Yeah, like where they were kind of holding her hostage there for
Yeah,
a
they
bit
held
as
her at
well.
gunpoint.
Yeah, like this horrific and really deeply unsettling. I can't
While her
believe that.
kids were there.
I know. Ugh, it's so sad and so scary. And true. No, the word keeps coming into my brain, then it keeps leaving. But yeah, basically just horrific. I'm so sad that this happened to her. And it was also I was so sad seeing her husband PK too, who was like overseas at the time when this was happening.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine how he was feeling during that time. And I appreciate her vulnerability and talking about what happened to her because it was pretty awful.
Yeah. I completely agree. Um, yeah, it was very shattering. Like, every now and then we have those moments on reality TV that just
Yeah.
really bring you back into reality. They're
Yeah.
grounding, and just remind you that, like, this is people's lives.
Yeah.
And that was definitely one of them where, we had access to the security footage.
Ah,
Like,
wild.
it was so chilling to
Yeah.
see that. And yeah, very, very scary. I heard that she was robbed again. Um,
Oh my
and
God.
I
How
think we're gonna
triggering
see
would that
that.
be?
Well, exactly, yeah. So I think we're gonna see that play out in the upcoming season, but it
Okay.
was really hard to watch, and just seeing like all the raw emotion between her and PK.
Yeah.
I felt like I don't always get that feeling from reality TV. I know it's like super exploitative and that's a whole topic, but
Mhm.
that was definitely a scenario where I was like, I feel like I shouldn't be seeing this and knowing
Yeah.
this right
Yeah.
now. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that was very scary.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like there was a moment, I think it was the day after the night. Yeah, it must have been the day after where PK was on the way home from the UK. So she went over to Kyle's and Maurizio's house and like very vulnerable, very fresh at that moment. And to have cameras be part of it, yeah, like kind of felt a bit uncomfortable watching it. But she, PK came and they were hugging and it was like this whole thing. And then they had gone outside to get into the car and he forgot something. So went inside and seeing her like panic without him was so hard to see. And yeah, I almost felt like it was, I'm always appreciative when I see like vulnerability on TV like that. And I think it really like gives depth to our understanding of people and that it is a real life, like you're saying. But at the
Yeah.
same time, it's like, at what point is this just like invading, especially her first like few sessions in therapy, kind of like processing her trauma from it. It was just like a
Yeah.
bit much. And then I just wanted to give her some privacy almost like,
I know.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like at that point you probably just forget that there's even cameras around
Yeah, it's
you.
true.
She was definitely just like in full survival mode at that point.
Definitely.
Um, but yeah, that was definitely very sad, but it was also really nice to see everybody really rally around her and support
Yeah.
her and support them as a couple. That was really nice to see.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
On to a lighter.
Switching gears very starkly.
Aviva's leg,
Oh God.
bitch. This is another one of my Roman empires, actually. I think of this moment so much when she just whipped that fucking leg out and she threw it. How shocking was that scene?
Yeah, that was very shocking. That has absolutely gone down as one of the most like iconic scenes and images in reality TV history.
Yep.
Um, yeah, what was she saying? This is the only fake thing about
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can take it.
Which is like, I love that. Like, I love the sentiment. I love the stance. I love the
Yeah.
drama. I wonder what her sign is. Let's look it up really quick.
Oh
I'm
man, I think
curious.
I remember something like Pisces.
Oh yeah, and her name is so similar to mine. Let's see what her sign is. September 9th.
Oh, so Virgo. Interesting.
Thanks, girl.
Interesting take on Virgo. Okay.
Um, yeah, she is something. She wasn't around very long on the show, but definitely made an impact. I remember her. And sometimes when there's some like not like OG wives that kind of come and go, like I sort of forget them a little, but she definitely sticks out in my mind.
Yeah. I was not a huge fan. She
Me neither.
was I felt like she didn't really bring anything that interesting to the show. Like
Yeah,
most of her drama just was like very petty and not entertaining, and I was just not about it.
agreed.
I agree with like her like that was out with a bang for sure. Like that stance, that act of whatever. To be
Yeah.
honest, I was like more horrified by like the sanitary issue of having her prosthetic leg on the table rather than it being a prosthetic leg not no longer attached to her. I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh my God, like that's been on the ground. Like if someone else had just put their foot or their shoe on the table,
Yeah.
I'd be fucking mortified."
No,
Like
that's so
that's where my
true.
mind went is the germs, the germs.
No, it's so true. It was quite shocking.
Oh man. And everyone's reactions, like they went around the room and they were showing like people at the party and they're just like, "What?"
Oh my God, yeah, it was a lot. And everybody was kind of reacting very differently. I remember Luann laughing, I think, and I remember like Ramona just being like, oh,
Oh my God, Ramona.
it was a lot. It was
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I would have just had a similar reaction to Luann of just like, oh
what are we
boy,
doing
like
here? Like what's going on?
yeah.
Why are we
Yeah.
throwing our legs?
Yeah. I just felt like it was not necessary, but it was still very iconic and we do appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. We appreciate her very much for that.
Oh, a moment for Aviva. She
Oh,
definitely left her
Aviva.
mark. Like,
Oh yeah, and she knew it too.
yeah.
She was like, you know what's gonna really do it? Yes.
Do you think she's like proud she loves it and she's like, I'm remembered forever on that show?
Yeah, for sure. She's giving. That's what she gives me.
True.
Uh
That's so fair.
so the next one of Vanderpump being slapped
Oh my
is actually
God.
pretty funny because I have a friend of mine who's just starting to watch Real Housewives, and I encouraged her to start with Beverly Hills because she loved Vanderpump Rules. And just to keep that Vanderpump energy
Yeah.
going in her life, I thought it was a good suggestion. And I've been thinking about the early seasons of Beverly Hills, and yeah, this was quite again shocking. But not overly because Brandy just is this way and she continues to disappoint me every chance she gets. I I can't believe that she did this. I can't believe you've done this.
Literally. Yeah, that was pretty shocking. And like, I know some people are like, oh, she didn't hit her hard. She
I
was
don't
just
care.
joking. I'm like, that was so uncalled for. And like, she was just, yeah, she has continued that energy throughout everything else that she's ever been a part of. Just Google her name and look at the latest news on her. Um, but yeah, that was definitely really disappointing and absolutely something that LVP is not going to put up with, not going to
No,
tolerate, nor should she.
no.
That was very shocking.
100%. And I think too, like sometimes I put myself in the mind and body of people who make decisions like this and think of like, how can this possibly be a rational thing to do? And I think of like even as funny or as goofy or as mad or whatever combination drunk, I don't care that I would be. Could you imagine if I just slapped you?
No.
Like in what scenario would that ever be like even a little bit okay?
Yeah, I literally cannot imagine a single scenario where that could be even a possibility
I
on the
think what's
table.
worse is that it's like a tiny, it was just like a, it wasn't like a full on. Like if you're gonna
Yeah.
do it, to me, it's like out of anger and passion, not
Yeah.
like
Oh,
what just
amore.
happened? It's just like, oh my God, yeah, no, it's so awful.
And it was just like her waiting afterwards for the reaction. She had this like really icky dynamic with LVP. Like it
Yeah,
all came to a head in that moment, I think.
for
And
sure.
it was just disturbing all around. It was like this weird, like mommy like
Yeah,
vibes of like what okay, yeah. Yeah.
enough
Anyways,
said. That's
enough
very true.
said. It all came to a head and yeah, ended there, rightfully so.
It was giving. I need attention, and I'm a toddler having a little temper tantrum.
Yes, she was in her child self, that is for sure.
Oh my
A
God, yeah,
true horror.
yeah, truly.
Another horror that went even more wrong. And
That the lasting impact of this fucking incident. Oh my
I
God, it's so
know.
bad.
Yeah, so we're talking about the Candace and Monique. Um, do we even call it a fight? Like it's definitely started out as a verbal conflict,
Yeah.
but in fairness, Candace was trying to shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
But it kept going, and then Candace was right back in her verbal, you know, provoking. But regardless, and I feel like that's like a whole episode to break that
Yeah,
down.
honestly, I know.
Yeah, we know that Monique was pursuing, pursuing being violent towards Candace. When she released her hair, she ran after her again, and she was,
Yeah.
having to be held back by multiple people. It went on for several minutes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it
It
was
wasn't like
not
a
like
little
a split
slap.
second.
No.
Yeah. That was a true horror, and people were left to pick up the pieces
Of
and
glass.
of literal glass and watch the footage back and just try to like understand and try to like figure that out. And I feel like they never really resolved
No.
it, and kind of rightfully so. I don't feel like I could come back from that if I was involved in something like that.
No, it's so true. And I think like I mean, like you said, we could literally have a whole episode talking about that conflict because there was so much to it also leading up to it during
Yeah.
the way it kind of continued, the way the production tried to intervene, what happened afterwards. Like it is such a
Yeah.
huge topic. But I think it really was one of the first physical altercations that, bled into legal stuff outside of the show. That was really damaging for Candace's mental health outside of the show. And I think also Monique's and subsequently led to her not being on the show anymore as well. I think
Mm-hmm.
this was kind of the beginning of the end for her. Um, but it was shocking in the sense of like, we see them egg each other on and like kind of get into verbal fights, but to have it be like such a very like intense physical altercation too,
Yeah.
where it was just like pulling hair and just continuously like smacking her head on the ground on the table. It was just really like quite jarring to watch. And I remember feeling really overwhelmed by it and like even asking people who were fans of Real Housewives about it after the fact because I was just like so
Mm.
curious to see how people read that because there was so much to it.
And like
Um
to debrief it.
yeah, like I just feel like there was so much loaded both like how we're raised, why that was kind of Monique's point, and like whether Candace or not was like deserving of it, and like this whole victim role. Like it was just so complex, but it was really like shocking to see something that is relatively innocent. We're like fighting about some like petty shit that turns into something like quite horrific was like a lot to watch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. Like looking back, we can all see how it was escalating over a long
Yeah.
period of time,
Yeah.
but I don't think anyone expected it to go quite as far as it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just very, very jarring.
Yeah.
I feel like we haven't seen that kind of energy on Potomac
No.
either up until that point. So yeah, that was a doozy. It was a little bit of a horror. Everyone was like
Yeah.
recovering afterwards, right?
And also, speaking of horrors, I have this visual of like Monique outside, like running after her and like trying to find the car that she was in. I was like, oh my God, this is like literally giving horror movie, right? It's
Literally,
scary.
they throw her in the cab and she drives away. Yeah,
No,
that
it was
was
like actually
frothing.
scary. Yeah. I feel like, and the next one that we'll get to is also really jarring and scary. Was this pretty horrific car accident, or like I guess what would you call it? Like not a BMX, but
It
you
was
know,
like an ATV.
yeah, an ATV crash on Orange County. We have Heather and Tamara was driving. She got them in this
Of
predicament.
course.
Vicky and Shannon, I think, were in the car.
Yeah.
I'm missing somebody, but oh, and Kelly. Is that her name?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was in
Kelly.
the car as well, I think.
Yeah. I don't know if they were two separate ones or all to, yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think you're
yeah.
right.
No, no, no. I think Kelly was actually waiting in the trailer while they were at the hospital after the fact. That's why it's coming to mind for me because she was
Okay.
like freaking out about it. But yeah, the footage of it, I think they played it in the most recent season as well. Um,
Oh,
really awful car
oh
accident
yeah.
that we see like they go over the small little hill on the sand and they just totally flip and we have that footage again of like inside the
Yeah.
actual vehicle whatever it is. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty scary, like being airlifted to a hospital, being in the middle of nowhere. That's literally my biggest fear is like just having some sort of medical emergency and just having no access to emergency services. Um,
Yeah.
it was pretty brutal. I'm really happy that they made it out okay. I think that could have gone really horribly.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And actually, now that I think about it, it reminds me of that awful boat trip on New York, that like
Yes.
horribly choppy water that they had to cut filming because it was just so bad. Like we've seen some women go through some pretty terrible accidents.
Yeah. And I think that boat trip too was part of what made that so scary was they cut the footage off. Like they had to
Yeah,
stop filming because it was so
dangerous.
sketchy and they were like, we can't. So then there's just this huge gap where the screen is just black and you're
Yeah,
like, holy shit, like what
yeah,
happened?
yeah.
You know?
It's
And with
wild.
Vicky going to the hospital, it was this again unknown of is she going to be okay? How hurt is she?
Yeah,
Like, yeah, very scary. Again, we're not used to getting that kind of like up close footage when things like that happen. So,
yeah,
um,
for
yeah, it
sure.
just really gives you a perspective of what it's like to be in an accident like that. You just
I
never want to take it
know.
for granted.
I know, and I feel like that's why we talked about this I think last episode of like Meredith talking about that car accident that she almost
Yeah.
got in the snow. Like just because we don't have footage of something doesn't mean that it's not like jarring, and I think it probably would have felt very similar to watch. And I know that editing, like the editors kind of were making light of it, but yeah, I fully am aware of how scary that can be. I've never been in a car accident like that before, so I don't know exactly how it feels, but to see the footage of it, it's definitely scary. So, yeah, not,
Yeah.
yeah. Ugh.
100%. Yeah, very, very scary. Um, but not quite as scary.
I was just gonna say, no, it's even scarier. Oh, this man,
I
he
don't even
freaks
want
me
to
out.
say the name,
We all
but
know the one and the
ugh,
only.
Michael Darby. Ugh.
Ew.
The
Bad,
definition of ick.
yeah, bad vibes from the beginning. Yeah, this man is quite problematic. I feel like there's a common theme here of like shitty partners, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
This is a very predatory man that I'm really surprised they even allowed to continue filming for as long as they did despite everything. What's wild about this, and correct me if I'm wrong on the timeline, that she got pregnant with their first child like after this had happened, like very shortly after, because I think what had happened, again, correct me if I'm wrong, is like this stuff was kind of coming out, and then there was some sort of altercation with Candace's husband at like the final episode. So
Yeah.
like the season was just not a good season for him and for her. It just was constantly for seasons even before this. It was just like he all these rumors of him and just like not good shit. And then, after filming, she turned out to be pregnant, and it was like my heart just dropped for her that she was just like with this man. And they ended up having two kids together, which is like wild to me that she would even entertain the idea of being with him after this type of behavior. But ultimately, the image that we have in the scenario that we're referring to is that he was in very like touchy feely with production. And
Mm-hmm.
I will always be incredibly sensitive to production. I feel like they don't sign up for this drama. They're there to do their job and to film it and to be part of like the back scenes of it, not to be at the forefront and to obviously be treated the way that they were. Really gross behavior. And I'm shocked that we even saw some of it.
100%. It was very disturbing. And again, like we saw a lot of the buildup,
Yeah.
and there were all these little signs. There were so many red flags, and people were calling that out like pretty early on.
Yeah.
And I think it stood out so much more too in Potomac, where there is the, traditional values and like kind of the traditional way of being a wife, being a husband, respecting your spouse. Like,
Yeah.
I think that it stood out a lot more that way.
That's so true.
But yeah, he is a huge creep. He gives us the ick.
Yeah.
There's really nothing redeeming about this man.
No.
Yeah, I feel like that's a whole episode as well, but very
Yeah.
disturbing, very horrific. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. I feel like, yeah, this was really tough to watch. And I think even having like that audio of the cameraman, like kind of saying something about it is upsetting because I mean, like obviously I believe things when we hear it after the fact are like
yeah,
recounting something, but to actually have like footage of it to a certain degree is like
yeah.
really upsetting to see. And I think even just any sort of defending that behavior is also just as equally as terrifying.
I
As much as
know.
Ashley, like I root for her being okay and being happy and healthy and single, that was really tough. I just stopped standing by her at that point. She was also then to go off the last one, she was like kind of defending Monique. Well, she
Mm-hmm.
was. She did.
Yeah,
Yeah, she actively defended Monique and testified
fully.
against Candace. So it was really hard to see that, and I just sort of ended it there with Ashley.
Yeah, I completely agree. It was the exact same for
Yeah.
me. And Ashley aside, even just the way that other people were kind
Mm-hmm.
of glossing over it, acting like it was just a joke. People were like brushing it off like, oh, maybe it's like it's his culture, it's cultural.
Oh my
Um,
God. And what culture?
yeah, that's called sexual assault.
Yeah, let's just
Thank you
call it what
very
it is.
much. Yeah, very disturbing again to like have access to that in the filming, in the footage. Not something that we normally see or, get that kind of real proven vindication. Like that's so difficult with sexual
Yeah.
assault cases. So like for me, that was something that was like very disturbing, but also very powerful, and
Yeah.
like fully support production.
Yeah.
I felt a little bit disappointed with Andy at times because I felt like he was really buddying with him. He was glossing over some of it,
Yeah.
making jokes about it, like, well, I would like it if you touch my butt. And like, if he was my boss and that happened to me, I would
Yeah.
be like, fuck you, man. Like,
Oh, fully. Yeah,
not a good look.
100%. I think Andy's also tasked, and this is by no means to ever excuse that because it's really not, but I think he's really tasked with this like difficult thing of needing to like hear everybody's perspectives. Like if
Mm-hmm.
he lets his emotions get in the way, then like he's had some really shitty husbands on the show and like and even Tom Sandoval like let him say his piece. And it would be really nice to have Andy just take these really firm stances on things. But unfortunately, like with the type of industry that he's in, they need to show both sides as a way of getting views. So if I were that person who was assaulted by this man, I would 100% be like, this is not what I signed up for. I thought I was going to be like witnessing drama and filming it and be on this side of it, not be actively part of it. And again, this kind of like ties into like HR and ethics and conflict around like production. How far do things go?
Yeah.
I think there should have been for sure a firm stance on Andy's end and production Bravo's end to say like we will not tolerate this type of workplace treatment and behavior. And it continued for a long time after that. Like he
Yeah.
even to this day is still on the show to a certain degree, and it's shocking that that's even allowed. But
Yeah.
that's why we're not in the business, I guess.
No, and that's why it made the cut for horrors because it
Yeah,
is truly disturbing.
truly,
Yeah, I would love to unpack that in a dedicated episode because
for
there's a
sure.
lot there and it's quite heavy, but yeah, very, very shocking, very disturbing.
Yep.
Oh man. So I think that is it for our horrors list.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very scary stuff.
I'm we have I'm gonna have bad dreams.
I know. Okay, so we have covered mysteries. We've covered the horrors.
The horrors.
The horrors. And now we're gonna get into spooks.
Mm.
So this is literally just things that we thought were fucking creepy
Yeah.
and like made our skin crawl and made our hair stand up, and it was just like, ugh, yeah, taken aback. So the first thing that I thought of when I thought of like a spook was very random and very specific.
Okay.
And I'm sorry because I think you still have not seen Summer
That's
House,
true.
but
Yeah. I'm catching up, y'all.
no, it's okay. It's not much of a spoiler. But there was a very peculiar, controversial
Great
cast
word.
member named Jordan. Was it Jordan? I don't even remember his name.
Yeah, that's what it says.
Great. I'm gonna go off of my own notes that this was Jordan, and he was talking about how long his tongue is. And this is a guy who's told a lot of lies, a lot of stories. He sits down at the table and whatever comes out of his mouth, he leaves people like, huh? What? Okay, Jordan. That's kind of his energy.
So is it like kind of giving Jax a little?
A little.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Okay.
would say Jax just like blurts shit out
Mm.
in a way that's often entertaining, and people are like, oh, that's so Jax. But like with Jordan, people were just like, why are you here?
Oh,
It's that
okay.
kind of
I see.
energy.
Nice.
um
Love an
yeah,
off-putting man. It's great.
yeah, very interesting. I think people just like did not believe a word he said, and when you
Love
see it
that.
you'll understand why.
Okay.
um but yeah, I can't remember how it got brought up, but he was telling some story bragging about something that was probably a lie. And he was like, yeah, my tongue is just so long. And then he shows his tongue. And it's actually so freakishly long. Like it's
Yeah.
it's
It's very
creepy.
pointy. Again, go to Instagram because this thing is pointy.
It's V pointy.
And his eyes are not
Um,
helping.
no. V creepy.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was like, why is this necessary? You're not showing us anything like great about yourself. No one's impressed. Like it's just ick. It's just
Mm.
why. I don't know. Ugh,
It's just why.
it was spooky.
I
I
feel like your eye is like the judgment eye. Like your eyes judging him.
It was spooky. That was some spooky shit,
Yeah.
Jordan.
The eye is giving him like side
Really?
eye.
Yeah. Literally. It was just very spooky. So I thought that was a great energy to start us
Yeah,
off with
definitely.
some
Random niche. We
spooks.
love it.
Yeah, exactly. So going to one that you like know about, um, I also really quickly thought of the early days of New York with Simon and Alex. What did you think? Because I went down the complete rabbit hole, like hearing people, talk about them. And I don't really use Reddit, but I went down the rabbit hole with
Oh,
Reddit.
really?
Yeah, and like there's so much discussion about them. People
Mm,
loved them.
no,
And there was like a huge divide of people who
no.
absolutely loved them and people who were like, ugh. And
Can I
I'm,
ask what their reasoning was for liking them? Like, on what
yeah,
basis?
I know, right? Where's the evidence? State your case. Um, yeah, basically they were saying like they were so real, they were so intelligent, they were
Oh, shut the
saying
fuck
what
up.
people were thinking, they were
Shut up.
so like they were such a great healthy couple. They're like I honestly don't know. I don't understand because it
Intelligent is
was
taking me out.
I know. I listen.
The eye.
We need to talk. Um, yeah, very disturbing. I got the ick from both of them.
Oh, yeah.
I know that they're like awkward and that's can be very charming and endearing in people, but with them, it just was like icky and uncomfortable and like feeling very fake to me.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. What was your perspective on them?
Oh, I mean, all of the same. Like, V icky. I remember because I think I mentioned in our first episode, so I started watching Roni when I was in high school. So it was still very early days when I
Yeah,
was watching it. And I remember seeing them and kind of thinking like, okay, these two are the ones who are not like they're kind of the opposite of Bethany Frankel in that they're like more mature, they're less reactive to things, but they, so I think I can see why somebody would be like, oh, they bring like this element to the show.
that's what
But
people said.
yeah, they were incredibly um I see right through that shit though because I feel like they did so much for the cameras. Like they
I
did
know.
so much. Yes, they were like so cringy. Um I didn't find their like house renovation story to be very like impactful. I think that was for the HGTV fans out there who like just wanted to give a shit about like I think they lived in Brooklyn. Like Brooklyn architecture vibes. Like they lived somewhere where they weren't in the city and that was like a big deal. Like I'm not gonna go all the way to
Right.
fucking Brooklyn to go see them.
Right.
But I know I saw right through them. I thought they were icky. I thought they were not funny. That meme of
Alex.
Alex, where she's like, it's not like, haha, I'm a model. It's like I'm a model and like this is very serious to me. Like she was so stupid. That clip was so stupid. And her
Ah,
slipping when they were remember that clip where they were arguing at the pool and then she walks away and she slips and falls and then he's like
no.
oh my God, I have to find. I'll put it on our Instagram
Oh
too.
my
Fuck, it's so
gosh.
funny. She's like, "Forget it, Simon. I'm done." And then she walks away and she slips and falls on the pool deck. And he's like, "Oh, are you okay, honey?" And she's like, "Like me alone." Like, just to me, she was not funny, and she wasn't. No, she didn't give me anything to work with. I didn't like her.
Yeah, I totally agree. I felt like she wanted to present herself as this very mature, intelligent, like I'm the real one, I'm the relatable one here.
Mhm.
And like, I'm the one who's got it all figured out. But then she was so
Okay.
petty and catty with
Yeah.
everybody and like fucking stirring the pot. And yeah, I did not like anything about either of them at
Yeah.
any point in time ever. I did not miss them.
I feel like there's such a fine line between like, yeah, these shows are about women who to some degree are full of themselves, like
Yep.
just be honest, and they're rich, they're in upper class, they like are have access to things, but they are still somewhat relatable to some degree and they're actually funny and entertaining. She just didn't cross that threshold for me as much as she
Yeah.
tried. She just was stuck up and it
Yeah.
just wasn't fun to watch. They thought they were better than everybody else. They were just like it just wasn't entertaining to me. And to think that she's a psychologist, I think.
Yeah, she's some kind of counselor. I don't know.
That's ridiculous to even think about.
Yeah, I
Sorry, like,
definitely can't co-sign that.
no.
To each their own, though. I mean, I think she's got some pretty strong views about things
Hmm.
that I don't agree with, and I'm not co-signing. But yeah, in terms of the show, she just did not entertain. She
No.
did not serve. And I think they thought they were being like cute and cheeky and like reaching a very niche audience when they were being all like sexual and weird and gross with each other, and they were like, oh, we're showing everyone how like healthy sex is and we shouldn't have shame around this topic. It's like, that's not what's happening here. Like, y'all are just
Yeah.
creeping us out.
Yeah,
Like,
and it's not that's I think that they wanted to be like a marriage, like they want to show their marriage when like I'm not here to see the husbands. Like I like when they make little appearances. Like I
yeah,
love Maurizio. I love a lot of the men and the husbands on the show, but yeah, he was just way too overly involved. And I think at a certain point, Ramona or Luann was like, you're involved, like your husband is involving himself in like women's drama, which to me is like, you don't need to put the women in there. Just say like this is our conflict.
yeah,
But like, yeah, he just kept inserting himself into things, and I always hated that about their dynamic. Ugh.
yeah. I totally agree. It was honestly, in hindsight, it's giving Michael Darby, where it's like, can you
Yeah,
just stay out of it and like be in the background, please?
so true. Yeah, so
Uh,
true.
yeah.
Icky,
Creepy.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I just have to because I'm just looking at this image, Danielle Staub, right? Is that how you say her last name?
Danielle Staub, yeah.
And her like little entourage that she would bring to children's charity events just for the sake of protecting herself.
I know. With like the Hells
Ridiculous.
Angels jacket and like her friend who was like straight out of the mob, was convicted of stalking and harassment. Yeah, just oh
It's
man.
spooky to
It
think that she just like wanted validation like that and to come from them. I don't know. It just it's deeply unsettling to see, and it's obviously like entertained to some degree because it's obviously such a reach and like she
yeah.
is totally overreacting to the
Yeah.
situation, but like it's just like girl, why it just to think of them being in like these spaces, like these men just completely uninvited. She's like
Yeah.
outside having a cigarette with them. Like it's just like it's a children's like I think cancer event. And she just like brought them like a fundraising thing and
Yeah.
just brought them for the sake of like, oh yeah, because these girls are gonna what are they gonna do to you,
I
girl?
know. And she brought like, and what are they going to do to anyone who tries to mess with you? Like,
Exactly.
that's
Like
the thing, is it's so aggressive and so like trying to be so intimidating. And I
yeah.
think she brought them to like multiple events, different men at different
Dinners.
times.
Yep.
Yeah. But it's like, can you imagine if there was drama or conflict in your friend group and then, one of the women just shows up with a group of men wearing Hell's Angels jackets, just being
No.
like, they're just my posse. They're just gonna sit with me.
They're just gonna
Like,
make sure everything goes okay. Like, what are they gonna do to me, girl? Like, and you want this like authentic apology, but you're coming in here with that energy. Like, what do you
oh,
want? Yeah,
spooky. Yeah,
truly
that was
spooky.
so spooky, so
And
chilling.
obviously just like so loaded in different ways for her. Like that was just speaking so much to where she was at mentally in her life that it was just
Yeah.
hard to even take it seriously.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, these men were really unsettling.
V threatening. Yeah.
Yeah, and like one of them in particular that I remember was like just living off it. Like he just loved to hear it and like would always ask her about it and just validate her point of view. And like that's all they ever talked about. And like,
Yeah. Just like a fucking loose cannon ready
yeah,
to go.
it's just nasty. I don't know. But
Yeah.
really funny. And like we do have an episode coming up where we talk about a book that she released, which is fucking hilarious to think about also. Just this woman goes to no end, just continues to share her story.
Yeah, I really do. Like, part of me is like, oh, I really want to know. And then the other part of me is like,
I don't
I don't
care.
care. Like,
I don't.
genuinely don't
I
care.
don't care at all.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Chilling, chilling.
Chilling, goosey
So
bumps.
yeah, one of the other scenarios, and I'm not really exactly sure, like I'm curious to hear your thoughts, but I just got like very weird, creepy vibes from Candace's mom. And I know there's like so much
Yeah.
around their relationship, so much buildup, so much context. And that'll have to come out in another episode. But like, there was a particular scene where they were looking at the wedding venues,
Mm,
and her mom was just making all these threatening comments and saying all these things, kind of like speaking cryptically
mm.
and talking about like, oh, don't bring your, what was it, um, her biological brother, her stepbrother
Yeah.
to the wedding, and your
Yeah.
father, and it was just very creepy and uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you remember from that?
I don't remember that specific scene of like the wedding planning, but I do remember their dynamic and like them talk like going to therapy on the show as well, and that being really uncomfortable to see. Um, yeah, her mom is so hard on her, and it was like really oversteps a lot of boundaries, and it made me sad to see that dynamic for Candace, that she felt really stuck. And I think especially because that was used a lot against her by other women on the show, that to really
Mhm.
like dismiss her feelings on things because she lived in her mom's house, which is just like not true. But to even see the way that her mom was like overstepping with her husband. So yeah, like I don't specifically remember the wedding planning, but I fully believe that that would have happened. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's like totally narcissism, just making it all about herself and her daughter, in light of her daughter's like moment on TV at the very least, let alone her wedding. Like it's just so
Yeah.
strange to me to see the way that she shows up for her. And I don't think that that's credited enough for Candace and like what she experiences and how she feels and what she goes through, that she was raised by somebody who's like just blaming her for everything and just, yeah, not cool.
Literally abusive
Yeah,
and
like it
was
was really,
physically aggressive and violent towards her. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. There
I
was
totally
even
agree.
There was one moment, I forget what it was. Maybe it was the scene that you were talking about, where I was like, this woman is like she's abusive. Like this is like
Yeah.
beyond just like mother-daughter drama. Like this is not okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely unsettling. I don't like when she's in the show. And again, I don't know why they continue to give light to people that are just abusive.
Yeah. I totally agree. And I think again, like there's so much around that and so much to unpack.
Yeah.
Maybe in our episode where we talk about therapy, where
Mhm.
there's crossover in reality TV, we'll get into that a little bit more. But it just made the cut for me because when I think back, it was definitely a moment that left me with chills, with this like icky feeling of just
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't know, so uncomfortable on Candace's behalf. I felt
Mhm.
really bad for her in that moment.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, definitely spooky, unsettling.
Yeah,
Ugh.
unsettling is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Thanks.
Yeah, nailed it. So the last kind of spooky moment that I can think of, and again, I apologize because I don't think you're caught up on Love is Blind.
That's okay. I love to hear
Um,
about it.
yeah, I'm curious to hear. I haven't seen much chatter about it online. Um, but essentially, there is a relationship that was a love triangle, but the viewer knew more than
Mm.
they did while they were being filmed. So
Oh, classic.
I know. So
Love
the
Island.
viewer, yeah, literally, it was the
Yeah.
same energy. The viewer knew that one of the guys, so there's a girl named Aaliyah who we love.
Okay.
And so she is dating what's his name?
Just some guy.
Just some guy, some gentleman, Uche.
Okay.
So she's dating Uche and she's really good friends with Lydia. They naturally gravitate towards each other as friends. And then we find out that Lydia and Uche previously had dated. They had this relationship
Like
that
outside the show?
outside the show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which I don't think we've seen happen yet.
No.
Um, and Uche tells this tale of like Lydia, stalking him, harassing him, doing like drive-bys, just like very weird energy. And he like cut it off quickly because he got the ick. And if that wasn't, a little bit unsettling on its own,
Yeah.
we see Lydia really take Aaliyah in as her friend, kind of take her under her wing. And there's this particular scene where Aaliyah is crying. She's upset about something that happened with Uche. And again, Aaliyah doesn't know any of this at this point.
Oh wow. She
Yeah,
doesn't?
Aaliyah has no idea that they knew each other or even dated.
Oh wow.
And so Lydia is comforting her as a friend, and she's giving this speech of like, you're just like me. We're so much alike. See,
Oh my
I
God.
know you. I know how you think. We're like one and the same, baby. And like, this is how it is. And she was like, in hindsight, it was very, very uncomfortable. Because
Yeah.
she's almost like, I don't know, vicariously living this
Yeah.
fantasy through her. Like it just felt very ick.
Yeah.
Um, and then later, it was like the never ending story. Um, Later, we see Aaliyah does find out.
Oh my God.
And, there's some context around this. I won't spoil it just to give you something to be surprised about.
That's okay.
But, and, so then Lydia comes clean. They talk about it. And Aaliyah's very clear, like, I want to have some boundaries. I don't need to know everything.
Okay.
And what does Lydia proceed to do? Tell Aaliyah everything that she would not want to know. Here's the
Mm,
car he drives. You're going to love his friends. You're going to love his parents. Oh, his siblings. Oh, his dog. Just wait until you see this. Just wait till you meet them. They're going to, oh, and this is what his routine
no.
is. And this is what he eats for breakfast. And it
That
was
totally
just,
violates the whole like premise of the show. It's just a way of like asserting herself, it seems like, like, oh, I was part of his world
yeah,
and I know this about him.
yeah.
What the fuck?
It was
Ew.
very, very disturbing, very creepy, very stalkerish,
Yeah, no
very
kidding.
much like, yeah, living this fantasy. I won't say anything else because there are still some
Okay.
other surprises. But yeah, it was just very, very creepy and
And
gave
is this
me
the
the
most
ick.
recent season of Love is Blind?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the one I want to keep up. I want to watch the most. I've been watching season 3 for anybody who gives a shit. And I've been like, they just met each other outside the pods, and it's okay. I know I need to see it, but I just want to watch the most recent one because I see so much online about it and I want to know. Like, I want to be part of
Yeah.
it. I'm getting FOMO. So, okay, it's official. I'm going to start that soon.
Yeah, you should. It was kind of a, there were some like some new territory
Yeah,
in that
sounds
one.
like it.
So yeah, no, it's worth a
Interesting.
watch.
Okay,
It was
sounds good.
very, very creepy, very eerie. Yeah,
It's
unsettling.
it's always strange when like that happens where people know each other outside of the show. Like I don't know how far along you are in UK of season 10 of Love Island.
Yeah, just
But
the
there's
beginning.
two people on there that knew each other outside. Twice actually. There's one woman who knows one guy who she's getting to know and then another that she's known outside of the island. And I'm like, that would add a whole other layer, I think, to me that it's kind of a disadvantage to other people because like maybe what their Instagram's like. Because I think of that all the time. If I was vibing with somebody on an island, get to know them who they are as a person and like they're great, whatever. Then you see their like cringy ass Instagram. Could you imagine if they were doing like just some
uh,
cringy shit on the internet?
oh my God, yeah. I feel like that happens a lot, and we see that so much on Love Island where they really do bring up old relationships or old flames. Oh, sneaky, sneaky Love Island.
Mhm.
Ah, yes. So many icks, many spooks, many horrors,
Yeah.
many creeps, many scares, ugh, and mysteries. Some solved, some to be continued.
Yeah. So true. I mean, I think Heather is the biggest one on my mind. I really want to see how the season continues and progresses, and hopefully we get some answers.
I know. I am really holding out hope that we're gonna hear more to that story.
Yeah.
Yeah, so curious, but yeah, hopefully that's been like a good overview
Yeah.
for everybody. That was a lot of fun,
That
and I'm
was.
so curious if there's any spooks or mysteries or horrors that you feel are worth a shout out that we didn't
Mhm.
cover today. But
Definitely.
yeah, that was so fun.
That was so fun. I feel like I have chills that I won't sleep tonight. And I don't need to watch any more horror movies for the rest of the season. I'm good.
Yeah, exactly. Real
But
cold, hard reality is scary enough.
that is, I couldn't agree more. I am terrified on a daily basis. And again, men,
I'm telling you, it's very
it's
scary.
scary out here.
There's a common thread here, yeah.
Oh, man, and they're gonna continue to give us more. That's the thing. Next year we're gonna have a whole other 2-hour episode of shit to talk about. I guarantee you.
Oh my gosh, it never ends, truly.
Never. Well, have a happy Halloween, everybody. Dress up, send us pictures of if you're dressing up like your favorite reality celebrity. I love when people do that. It's like my favorite thing to see. And until next time on Come Be Bothered.
We'll see you then. Bye
Bye.
bye.